Hello everyone, Pallytime here and welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are having a great day today. Today we are going to dive into a game that I am very excited about, Baldur's Gate 3. It came out of nowhere last E3, dropping a 1.5-minute long teaser trailer, but at this year's PAX East, we got to learn so much more about what we can expect from the game. This is everything I know so far about Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is being made by Larian Studios, who is famous for RPGs such as Divinity Original Sin. With Baldur's Gate 3, they set out to make the very best RPG that they've ever made, using the experience that they've learned from over the years of making great games. They've been working with Wizards of the Coast, the company famous for Dungeons & Dragons, to reimagine what Baldur's Gate is for the modern gamer. We're expecting to have an early release version of the game for PC sometime in 2020. The rumor is the summer, but Larian said that they're waiting until the game is ready, and personally, I really appreciate that. As far as the story goes in Baldur's Gate 3, playable characters and companions that we know about so far have one very important thing in common. They've all been infected by a parasite that has crawled into their eyes. It's disgusting. This parasite is slowly going to be turning our main characters into something known as a mind flayer. Holly, play the clip! It's gross as Obviously, having this happen to you is something that most people would rather not endure, so you're venturing out to try to stop this devastating transformation from happening. Your main character and the companions that you decide to bring along with you will be an important decision because it will determine which stories unfold in front of you. For instance, in Divinity Original Sin, it took multiple playthroughs of the game to fully understand all of the moving parts in the world, and it seems like this will be no different. The announced classes so far are the Fighter, Wizard, Rogue, Ranger, Cleric, and Warlock. Other D&D classes have not been confirmed yet, but are expected in the final build of the game. Throughout the gameplay demo at PAX East that I was lucky enough to see live, we got a very good look at Astarion, a High Elf Rogue. As we mentioned, he has that nasty little parasite in his eye that's slowly turning him into a thing of nightmares, but it's also giving him some powers that he didn't expect. He's basically a vampire spawn without jumping into too many specifics, but the parasite has allowed him to be able to walk around in daylight, which I'm sure he finds pretty neat. He also has the need to feed, and it's possible to bite your party members for sustenance. Swen, the Larian lead, mentioned during his presentation that while your party is at your camp resting at the night after a long day of adventuring, you can roll the dice and try to feed on a party member. Then roll the dice again, and hopefully not fully drain them and kill them on the spot. Then roll the dice a third time to pass a sneak check to make sure the other party members didn't notice your nasty deed. There was an example where Astarion tried to convince one of the party members that they were just a little under the weather, and that's why they were looking extra pale and feeling sluggish and had these 2 bite marks on their neck. No! No vampires, no! Did I mention I'm actually really scared of vampires? Like, holy shit, dude, no thank you. If you don't like the sound of any of the starting characters, by the way, you can create your own custom one from scratch. What's the gameplay going to be like, though? That's pretty important. Well, Larian is saying that they are going to stay true to their roots and give the players lots of systems to enjoy and lots of player agency in the world to use these systems. For instance, if there's oil on the ground and you take a flame to it, the entire oil patch will be ignited, just like in Divinity Original Sin. You can use this as a means of dealing damage to multiple enemies with a single cast of a spell. They, however, aren't going for an exact port of D&D rules into a video game. Larian has said that they have tried that in the past and it simply does not work. So this is their interpretation of the 5th edition rule set wrapped up in a nice video game package. Historically, the Baldur's Gate games have all played out in real time, with the player having the option to pause the action and make precise tactical decisions, then unpause the game to watch the madness all play out. In Baldur's Gate 3, however, the combat will all be turn-based. On a personal level, that's something I'm very excited about. Unlike Divinity Original Sin 2, your entire team's actions will be played out all in one time, and then the enemy will have a chance to make their actions. Or, vice versa. Initiative in combat is going to be decided based on your entire team's initiative instead of a single character. This means if you decide to play the game in multiplayer, you won't necessarily be sitting around waiting for that one slow friend to finally do something. Ugh, it's just so many wasted hours. Oh my god. Each character will have one action point to take an action, one bonus action, which I think is per combat instance. So like if you leave combat and then go back again, you get it back, but I'm not entirely sure on that. And a reaction point for attacks of opportunity. Movement during combat is going to be handled by giving the player a set amount of movement each turn, rather than the system that Divinity used where your movement was also tied into your action points. If one of your characters is defeated in combat, it doesn't mean that they're dead, they're just entering a downed state. While downed, the player cannot take any action, but will be rolling the dice each turn to try to attempt saving throws. If they're able to make 3 saving throws before they lose 3 saving throws, the character will revive with 1 HP. If they aren't so lucky with their rolls, then they die for real if they don't make the 3 saving throws. Luckily, if another party member is able to get close enough to the downed party member before their doom, they're able to use a bonus action to help them get back up and get back into the fight. They still will just have that one measly little health point to work with, though. Now, if a party member isn't the one that shows up to help and instead it's an enemy, every single time that downed player is attacked, they're going to be losing 1 saving throw. So it's a pretty dire situation. I imagine that the flow of combat will pretty drastically change to adjust to this if this happens. Also, I'm not too sure what the situation on resurrection scrolls are, so you might want to be careful. Now, unlike combat, exploration out in the open world is done all in real time. Sometimes, unless you don't want it to be. There's also significantly more verticality in this version of Larian's engine than what we've experienced in the past. One feature I'm really excited about is while you're out in the open world, even though by default it's all done in real time, it is possible to turn turn-based mode on even when you're out of combat. This is going to allow your character, or presumably your party as well, to move for 6 seconds. And then after those 6 seconds are over, the world and all of its inhabitants move for their 6 seconds. This allows the player to precisely navigate around traps that may spring up in those deep, dark dungeons, but also allows for a more tactical approach once you spot an enemy up ahead. There's a great clip from PAX East where Swin uses the exploration turn-based mode to sneak up on this archer that's perched above this castle courtyard. He shoves him off the ledge and removes the archer's height advantage and initiates combat that way, rather than just letting this guy sit up here and pick off his teammates one by one. There is also this really cool demonstration of how the open world turn-based system help a player avoid these fireball traps down in a crypt and navigate through them safely. Larian has said with the addition of the open world pause mechanic, they were able to add in much more challenging traps for the player to react to than what we saw previously in Divinity. Also, while you're out in the open world, your character will be constantly doing these skill checks to determine if they can notice something out of the ordinary around them. Like a secret hidden switch to open up a secret area that might have some treasure, or maybe you notice that this rock looks a little bit out of place and there might be something under it. These skill checks don't require any actions from the player, and what one character may notice, another may not. This means that depending on your party composition, you may get yourself into some unique areas because of your choices that you've made. That shove we spoke about, by the way, is done with just a generic action that all characters are going to have access to. You can do things like jump up to a ledge, shove an enemy out of the way, dip your weapon in fire, or even throw your boots at someone to try to inflict that last little bit of damage to finish them off on your turn. Now, depending on your character's stats, the effectiveness of these things will all change drastically. For instance, very strong characters can throw enemies, humans, Whereas, a weaker character probably can't. Stick with your boot. Stealth is also possible in the game, and it's much more immersive than what we're used to in Divinity. Your chances of successfully sneaking go up drastically based on how much light is being emitted in an area. You can be partially obscured or fully obscured, completely depending on how well the area is lit. The more obscured you are, the easier it is to sneak up on someone. The system can also be coupled with the open world real-time toggle mode that we spoke about earlier. The two systems seem to go well together, allowing the player to really plot out their moves based on enemy actions and avoid those sightlines when they need to. There's a really awesome section of gameplay where the rogue is sneaking through this really dimly lit area, and it's just so apparent how much stealth has improved on Larian's engine. It's one of the things that I am looking forward to trying out the most. Dialog in Divinity Original Sin 2 was handled well, and there were some great stories, but it wasn't very immersive. You mostly looked at varied text options with your camera still high above the action, not really changing that much. There was an option to kind of zoom in on people, but then it totally clipped off the top of some characters. It was just kind of weird. In Baldur's Gate 3, Dialog takes on a much more cinematic view, much more akin to something like Dragon Age, where the facial features of the person talking can be much more appreciated. There, of course, will be multiple dialogue trees for you to decide between as you are carefully articulating your views. Some of the chat choices may not sit too well with the person that you're speaking to, though. There are instances where dice are going to be rolled to see if you are persuasive enough to actually coerce your foe into doing something, or maybe you were intimidating enough to scare them into submission. The dice is done on screen in full display, and I personally feel like it adds a lot of drama to the dialogue. If you fail your dice roll, you could have a completely different experience than other players who passed their dice roll. The 20-sided die and all of the dice rolls are going to affect all aspects of the game, and really is what I think will set this game apart from many other RPGs. I think that's all for today, team. Let me know what you think of the game down in the comments. Are you excited for Larian's new adventure or scared that Baldur's Gate is taking on a new direction? Let us know for a chance to have your comment featured in another upcoming video. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more news about Baldur's Gate. I'm sure we're going to be featuring this game on the channel a lot, considering I'm at 600 hours in Divinity Original Sin 2 now, or something ridiculous like that. I appreciate you guys. See you next time. Okay, bye.